what we could have done is you could have adjourned that meeting at 6:15 and just, well, recess that meeting and continued it until after the general session. And then we could have come back into the RDA at 9:30 or whatever. I mean, they wouldn't be there, but the discussion was here anyway.
I was concerned if somebody made a motion, all three of us, if it's all three.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't pass.
No, it wouldn't have passed. What we could have done.
Yeah, it's.
Keep the mics off because YouTube does pick it up even though it's recording.
Welcome, everybody, to Morgan City's work meeting, February 27th, 2024. Okay, Jake, item 1, general plan update, presentation and discussion, and we have, gotta get my glasses. Who do we have here? Lisa? Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Denise, can you turn her volume up? Sorry. Do you have the presentation and general plan ready? You want to just do a screen share? We only have about 20 minutes in our session. So I think we should start out with what questions do you have off the top of your head right now? Last week, the Planning Commission gave a favorable recommendation, 5-0 vote on the general plan. We had a public hearing. This place was full. Approximately 30 members of the public were here. About 1/3 made comments. Of those comments, the comments were focused on, some were concerned about Morgan growing in general. Some were concerned about, a small group was concerned about wanting large lots only in Morgan. Others were concerned about affordable housing in general. A lot just wanted to see plan for the future, plan for growth. And a number of other residents also voiced concern about having street connections and a way to get around in terms of emergencies, getting across town and not putting everything on State Street. Lisa, any other comments from the public you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that captures it pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, can you turn your volume up, Lisa? I think it should be ours though, if we can't hear her well.
I increased this, it's these.
You can hear you.
Okay, you guys are hearing it better than me over here. Okay. Okay, I'll just come over there.
So the rest of you can hear me?
There you go.
Hear you now.
That's better.
Okay.
Getting
I'll
old.
just try to face forward.
Oh, so the question is, well, what questions does our council have? Or Lisa could just run through her presentation as well. The plan was for next council to do an official public presentation at council. And then you can continue deliberation. And at this point, it's all city council, you know. Do you want to make any changes to the plan? Are you good with how it is and ready to vote on it? We have done the public hearing and received the public feedback, and
Is there another public hearing?
no,
Okay.
there will be a public hearing for the annexation, but not for the general plan.
Steve and I were at the planning commission where the, is it Landmark?
Mhm.
Presented the general plan and being a public hearing, it was, and you were there too, Ty, it was, had a chance to vet the, and the comments that were given were, some were in favor and of course some were not opposed to the plan in particular, but opposed to growth and a changing of the rural set, our rural lifestyle or rural setting. Those comments were fielded very well by Jake. Steve made a great comment. He said to the farmers, this in no way forces you to sell your property. You can continue farming for as long as you want. I thought that was a great comment. But when it was all said and done, I felt good about the position that we were in. I don't know that I have a lot more discussion after that. And the responses that you had, I think, and again, I don't know that there were any responses that were, any questions or, well, responses that were directly an attack on the plan. Is that a fair statement?
There was one,
Yeah,
Okay.
just the acre lots or the.
what one individual wanted 1 acre
Let's
lots
talk about that. Okay.
everywhere.
Yeah, that's how she grew up. And why couldn't we plan that?
Well, but it was.
Earlier
just
on.
Acre lots and her taxes are way high. So the acre lots will continue to have taxes high
Mhm.
in a way, so does rooftops. There's
I
no
think,
real
but there were
solution.
some good reasons given
Yeah.
in defense by Jake in particular of the general plan of why it is what it is. On the other side, we've got young people that need places to live. I've used that story before. My own grandson is saying, I can't afford a home in Morgan and ended up buying a townhome there in your neighborhood. So I came away feeling that there was a nice balance to it all. Gary, where is Gary?
I'm sorry, I got you back.
Gary made the comment that he's been to general plan public hearings that have lasted for, would it be hours? Hours. Gone into midnight and I hope this is okay to say, but commended the group here. He said that it's an argument that you've done well.
Good. Well, in my opinion, it's been dissected and Ray is wonderful at picking up a lot of details that he's expressed all the way through the process.
Yeah.
And in my estimation, protected a lot of what we kind of want as a city. But overall, I thought it went good. I was thinking it might not go that good, but
Yeah.
it went way good.
And there was some, fair turnout.
Can we go to slide 8?
This one.
There's
So-
the big gorilla right there. That is a touchscreen, huh?
Wow.
Oh, I guess my question is. uh, So this, if we was to adopt this plan, this general plan here, then do we need to go into these areas and change the zoning? Oh, I guess what I'm saying is you have low density residential, okay? So am I looking, and I apologize, I wasn't at the planning meeting the other night, but it's saying that it's 2 to 3 units per acre, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And then, okay, but previously it was 0 to 5 units per acre. Okay. I mean, because of those changes in square footage and that, does it have to be changed? Does the zoning have to be changed to reflect that? So sort of your old R110 and R120s and
Yeah,
they go
yeah.
out the window, right?
No,
No,
yeah, so.
yeah, no.
Yeah, in terms of the succession of planning, the general plan is the highest in the
Sure,
cloud, the
sure.
biggest, the most general. And these densities are also gross, not necessarily net, where zoning is net, and these are more in the gross. They're also covering a wider range. The LDR could cover 1 to 2 zones, the rural, the R20, some of the ag, those all fit. And then in the medium, that's where the R10, the R12, all of those fit. And we don't need to make any zoning changes. That'll happen per application with the landowners wanting to do that. However, if the city does want to be proactive, you can do that. But typically the focus is on updating zoning codes, ordinances to reflect, but not necessarily applying for a rezone. If there's something we don't like in the R12 or the R10, then we can go ahead and update some of those. I mean,
So would we still call it an R110 and an R112, or would we call it an LDR?
probably keep the R10s and the R12s and all of that.
So
Unless the city said, let's do an overhaul of the whole thing. I don't really see that being certainly not a priority. We're focused on the downtown now, on the zoning for the master plan community. There's so many other things ahead of those, but typically when you do a general plan, you don't just go in and immediately update all your zoning. And where the LDR and the MDR are broad, there's multiple zones within those categories.
We do, however, have ordinance work to do. Have to follow up on the general plan. So
Yes,
it's
we have
yes
lots.
and it's no, right, so there's a lot to do, but like the river oriented,
We don't have that now.
we don't have.
Well, yeah, we don't have that.
So
that could-
there's
that'd be a
elements
new
of these that
zone.
need to be either incorporated into a current zone or new zoning created to accommodate the land use, right?
Yeah,
So that's kind of the yes and the no is, yeah, there's still ordinance work to do.
okay.
Does that make sense?
But it's not an automatic and it's not and it's not necessarily yes. And the river could be a new zone, but in the MDR, you may just decide to keep all the zones that are under that umbrella, future land use.
So were the arrows pointing to LDR? And say that a developer came and wanted to change that to MDR? Is that still a flexible subject?
Yeah, that overlay, don't you?
Well, the general plan is advisory, so that the city could take that rezone right away. However, if we felt like to get the zoning change that they wanted, they should be in the MDR in the general plan, then the city could request that the developer apply for that and go through that process to do
Well,
that.
Yeah, I can see that if we're in the MDR and if a developer comes, he's not gonna want to change it to LDR. He would go for the more numbers.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, is that a no-no? Or is that something that they push for or go through the steps that they could change their development into that?
They could.
Okay, then I'm good.
There was one thing
Go ahead, Lisa.
I was just gonna say, one thing I want to point out though, is that the boundaries between these are intended to be flexible, because you'll see that some of these boundaries cross through parcels. So it can shift and ebb as the city decides, what suits the community best. I mean, I think with the general plan, what we're trying to reflect is this intent that you have, this lower density on the perimeter and then more dense towards the, as you go towards the interior. So it's not like you would want to have, necessarily have a medium density pop up, further out on the perimeter. We're kind of trying to make that transition. But, as Jake said, you can update the general plan as you need to. We typically recommend not updating it more than once a year. Just so you kind of maintain that consistent vision. But like you said, this is kind of the higher level and more advisory.
So just back to Tony's question, Jake, the new designations, LDR, medium density, will that be our zoning classification as the changes made as we go forward? I mean, say there's a piece of property, it's R112 right now. The developer says, oh, I'd like it to be medium density. Say R110, I'd like it to be a higher density. Does it then become R112 or R120, which is what we're used to, or is it now MDR zoning? Is that
It would be the other ones, the zoning would stay the same unless we decided to make
okay,
a new zone.
a new category?
Yeah, a new
Okay.
specific zone.
Gotcha.
The one thing also that pertains to the main session tonight is overlay zones don't necessarily apply to this, because the idea of an overlay could
Mhm.
almost go anywhere.
Right. Could
Well, the mayor
land
asked
on
the
any
question,
one of those
somebody comes into
residential.
the LDR and wants to have a medium density, did they not then try to establish an overlay in there?
They could.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stacked against them, just because of the general plan.
But they could.
But they could. And so that, and a lot of times cities will be like, well, let's just do, if that's important to them, let's ask the applicant to apply for a general plan modification. I don't know if Morgan does that. You have, okay, and that could be a safe route to go. So anytime you deviate significantly from the general plan, you do a kind of a minor update. And where Lisa said also, these boundaries are general, they cut through property lines. They're a little fuzzy. It's not precise on the square footage or anything.
So in the past, we have amended the general plan to accommodate growth, but a lot of that was because our general plan was last updated in 1999. So there wasn't a real strong feeling that maybe it holds. So kind of my hope is when we take people through our process, that since we just recently updated the general plan, that we're pretty sure we're calling for what the community expects. We're communicating this now, right? It's updated, so maybe less likely that we have to amend the general plan right after we adopt it.
So,
That's kind of my hope.
I agree.
so low density is, I'm looking at 2 to 3 units per acre, right? That's what it's suggesting.
Yeah.
That would then preclude that there would not be a 10,000 square foot lot in low density,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
But getting up to 12 or 15, I mean, I'd have to run the math and look at it, because with these are recommendations at gross per acreage. So you're including the streets, the right of ways, some of the public infrastructure. It's where 3 units per acre net would be a third of an acre lot. When you look at it gross, you're easily adding 20 to 30% more. So does that make sense?
I guess all I'm saying is that an R110 as it exists right now would not fit into a low density residential according to this.
Correct.
And according to it, it doesn't fit into medium density.
Yes,
would, it
yes,
would.
yes, it would.
It would.
It
easy.
certainly would, but it wouldn't a low density.
So what do we do then for the moment? If we have one like Tony suggests that doesn't fit, do we need to, is that part of some of the changes you're talking
Oh,
about?
you're saying existing zoning?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you know what, I
Right.
mean, yeah, so we adopt this and we say low density is 2 to 3 units per acre, right? Well, that's not going to allow 10,000 square foot lots in that.
Yeah,
low
and
density
if
residential.
it's already zoned, you leave it because they already have that.
Even if the general plan is suggesting a higher density, you still leave it at the lower.
Yes.
So I think
Yeah.
you're asking on a rezone. So on a rezone, what are your menu of options? Right, I think that's what you're.
Yeah, and
Tony's asking.
rezone, we'd have to look at, but I think they would be more at the quarter acre, the 12,000.
Okay, well,
Okay, so I'm still confused.
We
Medium,
can make, it's not too late to make changes though. If something on the map you don't think is quite right, if there's,
I
if
don't
there's a
have a
particular
problem with it. I'm
Our-
just,
R10 area,
well, I'm saying medium density residential, and what I'm looking on in the picture is that's the highest that we have, correct?
3 to 5 units per acre.
And then it said previously 6 to 15 units per acre. So that would shut down those little teeny lots.
Well, medium density would be 3 to 5 units. I mean, you might be able to get 8,000 square foot lots on that,
yes.
5 of them.
And an overlay zone would be different.
If you get
You could get them with the
8,000 square
overlay,
foot
right?
lots on medium density.
Yeah, if someone wanted to do the mixed residential overlay,
43,500
that-
square feet in an acre.
that's a little bit different.
Okay, I'll trust you. It's still not clicking. but I'll trust you. And we need to adjourn this meeting and move into our other.
So quickly, what's next step?
The next step is this, at least this is what we were thinking, is that your next meeting, which I can't be here, but Lisa can, she'll come in person. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she'll present the presentation that you have here, just like she did in the main session. And then the council will deliberate and decide what do you want to do with what you want to do at that point. And it's fair for you to take time. I mean, the planning commission has been working on this for more
2
than a year.
years. 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And you have participated. I've seen you many times, but also it's different when it's in somebody else's court. Now it's in your court.
Yeah, you take a little bit of an approach that let them do what they want. I'll get serious when it comes to me.
Or that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Let's talk tomorrow on just details of this.
Sounds great. Thanks.
So I meant, let me take a.
Welcome, everybody, to our Morgan City Council meeting. And I believe the date's February 27th, 2024. I've asked Jeffrey if he would lead us in a pledge and Dave to offer us an opening prayer.
Everybody, please rise if you can. Repeat the pledge of allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we're gathered before thee this evening as we begin our Morgan City Council meeting. We're thankful for the opportunities we have to come together to consider the affairs of Morgan City. We're thankful for this wonderful valley that we inherit. We're appreciative of the moisture we've received. We ask now that our decisions and directions might be guided by thee and in the best interests of our community. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on the meeting's agenda for tonight, or do we have an approval?
Mayor,
Tony?
I will make a motion that we approve of tonight's meeting agenda.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion from Tony to approve the minutes agenda, and Jeffrey second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Now let's move to item 2, the consent agenda, and we'd need a motion to accept the minutes of the work meeting on February 13th, the council meeting on February 13th, and the warrants from 02/09/2024 to 02/23/2024.
I'd have just one comment.
Okay.
On the minutes of February 13th.
The council meeting or the work?
The Morgan City, I'm sorry, council or the work meeting.
Okay.
Yep, Gary's training. Going down to the almost to the bottom of the page, the third paragraph up. The paragraph reads, the meeting then shifted to cover 3 essential topics: open meetings, conflicts of interest, and sexual harassment. In my mind, and I didn't go back and look at the video, Denise, and maybe you know better, but in my mind, we were talking about harassment in general. There's different forms of harassment, sexual being one of them, but not just sexual in particular.
That was correct.
So I would say maybe just strike the sexual word, conflicts of interest and harassment. And on the second page, similarly, Gary stated the final significant subject was, I would just strike sexual and just say harassment. We do refer to sexual harassment as well as emotional and harassment from citizens and so forth. So not a big deal, but, and if anybody wants to argue, I'm just leave it the way it is, but just, it seemed like we were talking about harassment in general.
Mayor,
Yes.
I
Tony.
just, one question, and it's not a question, it's just a curious. Ty, this, what was it, Rogue and whatever, for a booster pump?
On warrants.
Yeah, on the warrants, this Rogue Services. The pumps for the booster station, is that the water booster station or we had pumps? Is that what were we talking about there? Pumps for the booster station.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is the one up at the cemetery.
Was that the one up in North Morgan? Or,
South Morgan
oh, the cemetery booster pump.
Cemetery,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
I was wondering if it was the one over North Morgan by the,
No, so we're trying to get ready for the sprinkler
okay,
system.
okay.
So. We had talked about it for, it's been a while, but, we talked about doing those upgrades, in preparation, well, help now, but in preparation for a new sprinkler system.
Okay,
But
that's,
we keep struggling with the,
I just wondering where the location was,
yeah,
so,
that's it. So,
okay, thanks, thank you.
Anybody have a motion?
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the minutes of the city council work meeting of February 13th, the minutes of the city council meeting, the same date, and the warrants from 2/9/24 to 2/23/24.
Do you want to include the changes you mentioned? The cross out?
On the, yeah, including the correction of the minutes of the city council work meeting, will strike the word sexual from I don't even know where I put it now.
Up here.
From reference, yeah, you got it, thank you. In referencing, well, there's one right
Okay.
there. I'm just trying to identify the paragraph. The second paragraph under joint annual training. The meeting then shifted to cover 3 essential topics: open meetings, conflicts of interest, and harassment, period. And then the second paragraph, well, let's see, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth paragraph under the same heading, Gary stated the final significant subject was just the word harassment, period. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have a second.
Is it, okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Grateful to have some people here. That's awesome. Did you have any comments that you wanted to make? You're just watching a bunch of old men meet? Okay, thank you for coming. I don't see any comments on Zoom, Denise. Okay, let's move into item 4, the active agenda. Item A, review action amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10, period or dash, whatever we want to call it, 15 mixed residential overlay, MRO zone. Ordinance 24-02. Do we have any discussion?
Maybe have Jake just reference
Yeah,
the change.
Good evening, council. Great to be with you. I'd just like to give you a little bit of background on this. So tonight there's 3 items pertaining to the mixed residential zone, the MRO. And the biggest one would be the rezone of the 2 parcels to the MRO, but that's also third in terms of order. The first 2 is, the first one is some recommendations on the MRO zone. As we've processed this application, the applicants are here, and so we can ask them later on when we get to their item. But as we've processed the application for the MRO, we've also noticed a couple things in the ordinance that probably should be tweaked, whether or not this project proceeds. For this project to proceed, one of these changes would be necessary, the other one's not. And so that's item number 1 on the MRO in terms of the ordinance. And then the second item is the rezone from the CC zone, central commercial, to the general commercial zone, which would allow it, because for a mixed residential overlay, there are certain zones that are permitted as the base zones and others are not. And so that's why there needs to be that that rezone change. I'm gonna go ahead and do a screen share and pull the ordinance change up here. Feel free to ask any questions or comment as we go along. The biggest change that we saw in the MRO zone is that the original ordinance required that the open space be a single piece, unless it were larger than 1 acre. And so in doing that, I've proposed some code changes that if it's 7 acres or less, it'd be allowed to be 2 or 1 to 3 areas. And if it's greater than 7, then that goes up to 5 acres, or excuse me, five areas, open space areas. And these are usable open space areas. And we added that term to the code. The idea is, it's a place where you can go kick your soccer ball, frisbee, whatever, a usable outdoor space, not just landscaping in between or asphalt here, or concrete there, or whatever, some kind of usable open space. So the recommendation on that part of the ordinance is usable open spaces for projects 7 acres or less are permitted to be divided into 1 to 3 areas. Projects over 7 acres shall have usable open spaces in 1 to 5 areas. No usable open space area shall be less than 5,000 square feet. And that 5,000 is basically saying, let's have a decent size of that. It's not tiny, but it's also not necessarily too big in terms of project work. And the other reason for this is when looking at this project, but also other properties around the city, properties are going to be all different shapes and, different geometries and all that. And so making it be flexible and work with the land, then we probably need a little bit more flexibility. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, no zoning code is perfect. Especially after you do a new zoning, there's always the need to tweak a couple things. So that's the first item in the code update. The second item is a very minimal one. A minimum of 25% of the perimeter or street front was 60 and now 40 feet, whichever is less, of the usable open space shall be directly in front of a public or private street for access. We want to have access to these usable open spaces. Before we had 60 feet, now we moved it down to 40. We found that was a little bit more conforming with the rest of it. And the other reason for 40 is 40 feet is the distance between townhomes. So you can't have townhomes, you open your door and there's your neighbor right there and you hand them milk. You got to walk 40 feet to hand them milk across the grass. And so that requirement in terms of townhomes being space was already there. And so we're matching this number up. The last item is more about process. In terms of the application, we required the HOA, CC&Rs, the property landscape and management plan, and master development agreement to be part of the initial application. In particularly the HOA and the master development agreement, those are items that are negotiated with the city. There's a lot of review time back and forth, and whether or not a property should be an MRO doesn't really depend on those. And so what we're recommending is that they be moved to still required, but they're part of the subdivision process when they're going to be platted and also building permits. So those were moved to the later part, actually subdivision part, which is how they currently are. So basically we're moving them back to how the city processes them now. City council will still deliberate all development agreements. This will just match your current process in terms of development agreement comes later on at the subdivision level. Is that right, Gary?
That's good.
Any question on these three changes in the ordinance.
Some of the changes, Jake, is that correct? Accommodate the other items we're going to consider tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And if the particularly the first two, if you voted no on the first two, then the third also wouldn't work because the plan wouldn't be conforming. And the applicant would have to come back with a separate plan on that.
I think you've done a good job explaining why we need the changes. And you said early on that they'll fine tuning will need to take place as we go along. So I think it's important to note that the changes are made for the betterment of the MRO, not necessarily a project that's being considered tonight.
Correct. We stayed with the 15% usable open space. So 15% of the whole property has to be a usable open space. That stayed. Just a little bit more about flexibility and access to it, and then the process. One other thing I thought I'd mention is that the applicant, I did see they went through approximately maybe 10 different site plans before they landed at one that met the code. Engineering, planning, city staff were okay with it. So there was a lot of process, probably about 4 or 5 months going back and forth and site planning to get that dialed in. And any questions on this? And I can go on to the next item if you, we can explain all three and then you can discuss and vote them. You should do that individually, but you could do them in sequence if you'd like together.
Move on.
Move on. Okay, great. So the next one is, I'm going to go to my staff report. This is the same report that you received this week. This bundles the two together. This is the property that's requesting rezone to the GC. Currently, it's right on the border between general commercial and central commercial. So not a big change there, conforms with the general plan. It's a 0.12 of an acre. Here's the entire project together, 4.12 acres. And it's just east of State Street, just south of Industrial Road where that comes in. And the current use is agriculture for that. Here's the current zoning, the CC, the CG, and the RM 115 in terms of, and apart from the small piece that's requested for a rezone, the other two, you keep the base zoning the same, and then the overlay will be on top. So the map would be updated with a diagonal line, a hatch on top, so they would see what's below and also what's above. So that's how you do an overlay in terms of visually, but also kind of explains that in this case they're applying for the MRO, and so that would override the base zoning. This is the layout by the applicant. And what's different about an overlay zone is that we can require a site plan approval, and that's essentially what this is a concept site plan in terms of a layout of the street, where the single family homes would go, the townhomes, the usable open space. This does meet our requirements for the MRO, apart from the changes that I've mentioned. It meets it in terms of the land uses, residential. It meets it in terms of the number of units being proposed, 12 single family homes and 20 townhomes. And so it does meet the minimum of the 2 lists of lot types. And the property is located in the sensitive lands district. And what that means is they would have to go through that process at the subdivision level, the next step, which is platting if it is approved. But then also the applicant does have the opportunity to do a LOMAR and a CLOMAR Clomar and remove it from, so they can go through that process as well if they would like. So they could either proceed with sensitive lands or do a Clomar. And the sensitive lands, the maximum number of units is 20. However, they could build up to 20 and then maybe the second access comes in, or they could do the Clomar and remove it. And under fire code, it would meet the current, it would meet the zoning without the sensitive lands.
Can we go to the next slide real quick?
Yep.
Just a question. So it says areas considered for usable open space requirements. What does that word considered mean? Means, I mean, are we going to hold that to them? Or are we gonna
Yes.
think about it.
No, we would hold it to them. And what I mean, to meet the usable open space, the 15%, I measured all three areas and all three would meet the ordinance as, as suggested for updates. So yeah, these would be locked in as
Guess
the
I don't
open
like the
space.
word considered.
Okay, it's just part of my report. It's not part of
Yeah.
official approval,
Okay.
but I'll use a different word next time. So those are the open space
All right,
areas.
okay.
And this will show you, so they have this which is could be a stormwater and for the usable open space up to 25%, so only a maximum of a quarter of the usable open space can be used for stormwater. So the applicants also looked at Storm Tech where you do it underground, and he'll figure that out at the next phase if approved. And then the next one shows the proposed park. For the usable open space, we do require a playground, a shade structure, and a trail, and they do have all three of those items. And that is again something to think about. When people might say, well, we're doing extra density or things here, we're also asking for additional for amenities for the public, and how these amenities will be established in the development agreement according to the ordinance is they're privately maintained but publicly accessible. So if somebody from the neighborhood next door wanted to walk over with their kids and play in the playground, then it would be allowed by city code, by development agreement. It wouldn't happen very often. It just doesn't. And intentionally, we don't have off-street parking. So somebody wanted to drive here and do that, there's just a few spots on the street, and that was intentional. So there's the open space plan. This is the plan of how the garages would be on the single-family homes. We require the garages be placed behind, so they have those two driveways coming in, and then the 2-car garages behind there. These are the architecture submitted by the applicant in terms of the concept. Essentially, cottage homes is what they are. The applicant will still have to go through the building permit process where staff would review to make sure we meet the architecture requirements. And those are porches, no exact architecture, meaning each home by each other would have to vary in terms of materials, color, design, all of that. So we're not going to see the same down the street. They will have to vary. And that happens at the building permit level. And that's something in addition that Morgan City would be doing on top of it. Because right now, if somebody applies for a building permit, it's all code and structural and health, safety, welfare. In this case, we're adding a design element to that. These are the designs submitted by the applicant for the townhomes, and these are the actual designs. He did hire a designer and put together actual floor plans with materials and colors and all that. So there has been a little bit more done on that. And in terms of the building review, we would just have to see all the townhome buildings and just compare them to make sure they are varying enough that there's no duplication. There's a front facade right there. Again, they have the porches, the doors facing the open space, which is required. The rest of the report is just detail going through how it meets the ordinance. So I don't think I necessarily need to go through all of that. Just to mention that it does. At the Planning Commission, we had a public hearing. There was one member of the public that voiced his opinion. It was a neighbor. No significant concerns. There was that neighbor did like the variety of homes, like the affordability aspect. Didn't have a too big a concern. He did request that there be consideration for wildlife habitat. So, and then the Planning Commission gave a favorable recommendation, a 5-0 recommendation from the Planning Commission. So those are all three items. I would recommend that you consider at least vote on each item individually, even though you could debate them how you'd like.
Mayor, I guess my only thought is and comment is this is the first, right, Jake, in our community, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so, and, you know, I'm curious to see how it works out. Hopefully it works out fine. You become the poster children for an MRO. I mean,
Sticking your neck out.
yeah, I mean, I
Don't
think,
mess up.
I think literally, I think literally a lot of people will look at this and, you know, form an opinion one way or the other of this MRO, this overlay zone. So, yeah. Best of luck. And one other thing, you've spent a lot of time at this, an awful lot of time. You've tried to, I know, do your best to make it work and make it something that we can be proud of in the community. So, just hats off to you for that. And I appreciate that. Thank you for all that time and that effort you've put into this project.
I believe, since our first discussion about it, just sort of on a scratch paper. Can you remember all that time ago?
Napkin.
That I loved your comment that you'd like affordable housing, especially for like those that work for you and maybe family and things like that. So I just want to thank you for your patience during the whole process. I think there was times when you wanted to pull your hair out, but you moved through it, and I appreciate that, that you are quite concerned at the footprint in our city. So great job.
Push that button, turn that
There you
green.
go.
There, now you're
you go.
recorded.
Yeah.
So, yeah, between Jake and Teresa, I've spent some time over in their office and to understand it, and yeah, it's been a process, but I think it fits good. I think it accomplishes well the objectives.
Well, and what Tony mentioned is we're happy that you're moving on. First one, it's a good example.
Yeah.
Poster child.
Yeah, poster child. Thank you.
And that it's somebody that cares about
Yeah.
Morgan's future that's leading the way for us. So appreciate that.
And at Jake's point, maybe we haven't hit a home run right off the bat. So if there's something in there we find we don't like, it's still work in progress. We can always make a change if we think we need to, right? Yeah.
That's correct, definitely. And compared to some of the past townhome projects, this is going to be a little bit more attractive. I can say that. This has some things that we learned from some of the past townhome projects, and that's in the ordinance. One thing also is the ordinance requires 50% of the units be individually platted. And so, I mean, the applicant's intention are, I think, to sell all of them, or at least most of them. But the ordinance does require that at least half of the units be, individually platted, available for sale. So that is the intent of the ordinance, is to create a lot of for sale products so people can get their first townhome, if they would like. At least it makes it optional. Without it being able to sell, then you can't do that.
I have a couple of comments. Just young ladies, there's going to be a test on this discussion before you leave. You have to pass 80%.
Or you can't get out.
Can't leave.
Yeah, got Ask a question.
A couple of questions, Ryan and Cody. One of the changes made tonight to the MRO ordinance is a HOA codes and covenants and restrictions. You're familiar with that. I mean, that's not new to you. You're ready to accept that. HOA must be managed by a third-party professional business that is independent of real estate ownership. Have you given any consideration yet to what your plans are there?
I've actually spoken with a couple of them, one being that Riverstone, that North, I can't remember what their name is, North something or other out of Logan. So that's what the plan is have a third party probably out of the city to be
Okay.
able to manage this more. So it's not a neighbor getting after another neighbor.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit better.
And you may want to do a little background. They're not all equal. Some are better than others. Do some homework, some references and that sort of thing.
I was gonna say, if you got some recommendations, you've been around that sort of stuff.
David's no, I don't.
Okay.
David's HOA management company. I don't have any. The second would be just the flood insurance discussion there. It appears that where you've presented all of the lots that you have, you're going to go after a flood variation, Clomar, I think you call it.
Yeah, that's the plan, is to file a Clomar on it. And then as that elevation is brought up, then we can remove each as we go from that. So
I mean, just my experience is some of that can take some time. You may want to be prepared to
yeah,
battle a little bit there.
I actually had to do that. I did that behind Ridley's on both the buildings that I've built back there.
I remember
So-
that. Yeah.
So Dana Schuler, she's
Okay.
pretty sharp on that. Been a
Yeah,
good help.
there you go. It's a good person doing it. I had one more, but I can't remember it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mayor, I am proposed to make a motion here that we approve of ordinance 24-02. I'll try to read this. An ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 10.15, Sections 10.15.060, parentheses B, parentheses 2, 10.15.110, and 10.15.120 of the Morgan City Code regarding the mixed residential overlay zone, providing for repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Excellent.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Tony, and I will try not to repeat that.
Just say ordinance 2402.
Yeah, ordinance, thank you, 2402. We have a second from Dave. Jeffrey?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay, Denise, that's unanimous. You ready again, or do we have somebody else who would like to go to item B?
Mayor,
Tony?
I will make a motion. We adopt ordinance 24-03. An ordinance amending the zoning designation of a parcel of property located at approximately 300 north, 300 east by changing the zoning designation thereof from central commercial to general commercial, providing for the amendment to the zoning map, providing for repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion from Tony on ordinance 24-03, a second from Jeffrey. Dave?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Jeffrey?
Aye.
Denise, that's unanimous. Item C.
Tony, you're on a roll.
Well, I
Mayor-
think
Ma-
we gotta just you two, get on record that the planning commission has talked through this, been through this, and have sent it to us with a
Positive.
positive recommendation.
Jake
It's
mentioned
gone
that.
through the planning commission, and so,
Mhm.
Been
get
discussed,
that on record. Yeah, they've
been
discussed
discussed
it
at great length.
on the planning commission, so to get that on record as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note in the motion, well, not, because we've already done it, but another thing to note is that the staff also, is providing a positive recommendation to move forward.
Oh, sure, we make that part of the public record as well, so.
Yeah,
that's
so anyway. Okay, Tony.
Okay, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 24-04. This is an ordinance applying the mixed residential overlay zoning designation to parcels of property located at approximately 300 north, 300 east, providing for the amendment to the zoning map, providing for repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Tony, a second from Dave for ordinance 24-04. Dave,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Jeffrey.
Aye.
Okay, Denise, that's unanimous. So congratulations.
And maybe just to comment to back Jeffrey up, if I may. For
Yes.
these, we've just gone through this fairly quickly, okay? But it's important for you to know that there's a ton of background work that goes into these things that we've discussed here tonight. So I sometimes, I get the feeling that people might be reading our minutes or listening to our minutes and go, well, they didn't talk about that for very long, but we've been talking about it for hours in the past,
I
so.
mean, Ryan, you've been working on the project, you and Cody, for how long? Yeah, 18 months.
Anyway,
And just because we have ladies here, there's typically two more of us on the city council that have been excused for today. So usually there's 5 of us on the city council that get to vote on these resolutions and these different things here within the city.
So we have the minimum amount of council members that we can
Votes.
have a quorum to vote.
and typically I don't have to make every motion.
He's just been here so stinking long.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And if you want to go home and have a hot chocolate, you're sure welcome to. Thank you for your
That
diligence.
apply to
Thank
me?
you, Cody and Ryan.
Jake too?
Does that apply to me too, Mayor?
Yeah, there you go. The reason I say hot chocolate, it's cold enough for a hot chocolate.
You have to
Yes, it
stay,
is,
you have to stay,
finally.
you have to stay, Jake.
Now that March is here.
All right, Gary, I can't excuse you yet.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'll hang in there. Good night.
Thanks, ladies.
Okay, item D on the active agenda, review action adoption of a privacy policy statement for Morgan City websites, resolution 24-05. And do I go to Ty?
Sure.
Okay,
So, the state auditor just sent us a thing where, they've been reviewing all the websites and it's a requirement. We had one at one time and, Denise put a new one together for us so we can adopt that and add it to our website.
Just follow the state, codes. Okay.
so there's not really a lot of discussion on it, or is there?
Track, do we know how much activity our website gets?
Uh,
Is it,
We,
how many hits we get on it in a month or a week? Do we?
yeah, we usually don't run any analytics on it, but we could. We
Curious how
do have an idea of like YouTube videos, so everybody that watches the meetings is on YouTube and that's a separate channel, but as far as, most searched and most clicked on items and total number of visits, we don't, but one of the reasons is it's gonna be a little skewed because we do a lot of our own using our website. So every time we have a meeting, we pull up our website.
Hi, Jake.
So planning and zoning would have a ton of hits just because we use our website. It's not just exclusive to public,
Gotcha.
so. A little different than a business that's trying to,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're out of here.
March 6th, we have our public, yes, that. So our public open house at the middle school. We'll be looking at the downtown and parks and trails. That's the big, those two are the big focus. Originally, we were doing a little bit more with the master plan community in terms of ideas and values and all that. It was too much for a single public meeting. So that will come a little bit later on in the process. We're not ignoring it. We're just pushing it back a little bit. So if you could come, please do. And also invite your friends and family, especially if they live in Morgan. If they don't live, then just have them come for the treats.
General plan is next council meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And Lisa will be here and she's going to present. I won't be, but she'll present.
There's refreshments. Always refreshments.
Yes. I don't know what they are.
You'll eat them.
Lifesavers.
Good night, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you.
I've got one item on the policy, and that's the second, on the last page, second to the last paragraph. That doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't seem like a sentence.
what's that?
A full description. This is the
Page
privacy
3.
policy. Page 3. Second to the last paragraph, a full description. That I don't, again, I don't think it's a sentence.
Full description of how agencies are to inform you.
State auditor didn't say anything about full sentences.
Supposed to say. Probably.
What are we looking at? What were the hell?
So see, full description. From you of your.
Right here.
Oh.
Even,
So scratch I put of.
that's still
And
not,
any different, yeah,
still not,
and any differently.
I like the word of there, but it's still not flowing with the rest of the sentence.
Differently worded.
Maybe it's of how your personal information is treated any differently. What would you
Yeah.
think of that?
Yeah, that would work.
Denise, did you hear that?
Of how?
Of how, yeah. Okay,
And of and how there.
yeah, where it says I, add of and how.
Perfect. Sharp eye.
With that, I would, well, unless there's other discussion.
Any more discussion? Okay, no. Entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 24-05, a resolution adopting a privacy policy statement for Morgan City websites.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, do we want to add with the changes?
Of.
Yeah, with the changes in section 1 of the second to the last paragraph, the words of how are put in place of the word I to inform you of how your personal information is treated.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
but you still want to second it?
Oh, yes, I'll still second it. Oh, yes.
So we have a second, a motion from Dave with the change as we voiced, and a second from Jeffrey.
Aye.
Tony? Oh, aye.
I,
Not sure if I needed to have a roll call, but it's just as effective.
You got her done.
Okay, move to item A. Review an action bid award 2024 street maintenance project, resolution resolution 2406. Ty.
Let's not talk
You go to
about
too
it.
much church, Steve.
So, we've been out our maintenance project and got favorable bids. The pricing came in, 200,000 less than the engineer estimate. So we're pretty happy about that. And we've done work with Post before and happy with the work that they provide. And so,
Where are they out of?
I'm not exactly sure. Pretty close around here though.
Davis or Weber County, maybe?
Yeah.
Post Malone.
So the bid tabs included in the packet, so you can see.
Yeah.
We were also happy with the number of bidders that we got.
Yeah.
Um,
And the closeness of the bids. During COVID, they were all over the map.
Yeah.
Few bidders. I remember being concerned about that,
yeah, some of them were like, here, convince me and I'll do your project.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really want to do it, but if you pay me, I will.
Yeah.
But to have the number of bidders that we did and the fact that they're tightly grouped, you feel better about.
Yeah, so we're excited to get the road project underway. Not related to this action item, well, kind of related, but because we did get such good pricing, we're also putting out to bid our trail project over on Commercial Street. And we were gonna do that in 2 segments. And now with the money that we saved on this, we're gonna also put out to bid in 2 different schedules to go under the bridge. So we can get it all done in one project. We're gonna create 2 different bid schedules, just in case we don't get the same pricing that we can do the Commercial Street portion, but we're gonna include Schedule B to go under the bridge and see if we can't get that done all at the same time. Yeah, so we'll go from Commercial Street, the end of the sidewalk on Commercial Street to the fairground
Perfect.
property, and have a loop that'll go down underneath the bridge and back up and loop up. So just a side note on kind of the cost savings going to speed us up a year on that project. So that's all I have.
Slaterville, Utah, Dave, how's that?
What's that?
Post.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Weber County. Good.
Okay. We have any more discussion? Or is somebody ready to make any motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion, Mayor,
Okay,
to approve resolution 24-06, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Post Asphalt and construction for the 2024 street maintenance project, authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the 2024 street maintenance project. Do I need to put the price on that? Okay,
Second.
okay, we have a motion from Jeffrey, a second from Tony on resolution 24-06. Dave, Tony,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
aye.
Denise, that's unanimous. If we move to item 5, city council, is there any discussion or any information you want to bring to us?
I'll just mention that Steve. See, you weren't at the planning committee or planning commission. Steve,
Our side?
Gary, no, you were there.
Oh,
I just mentioned that our attendants, Ty and myself,
okay, I thought I was talking about late.
attended the planning commission meeting last Tuesday. Most of what was discussed, we've gone over tonight, so I don't think there's too much more to add unless anybody else has anything.
And I guess, Mayor, we did was attended HOG meeting. thank you, Dave, for attending your
Okay. Did they note that?
WFRs, whatever letters committee
Yeah.
you agreed to attend.
I've never seen.
You see
At
the-
least somebody from the community, somebody from the county, or at least have a voice there and at least hear what's going on. So thank you.
Okay.
You CDBG? Is that? what
Yeah,
you're
that's half
referring
of it, or
to?
probably less than half of the acronym.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can, Community Development Block.
Block
grant.
No, Wasatch Front Regional Council Community Development Block
Grant.
Grant Regional Review Committee. Say that fast 3 times.
I'd just like to add that I think it's important that we get involved and show our presence at those meetings so that we can have a little bit of.
Yeah, the
maybe-
time may come when we'd like to access some of the funds and granted, as Ty mentioned, we did a few years ago to finish the basement here in this building, so.
Am I gonna get lost going to that building?
And they are getting funded. That was the other
I'm gonna
positive.
get lost, Garrett, plan on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just go to the gateway and go to the
Oh, that's hard
north
to get to.
side of
Yeah.
the gateway,
The Clark,
the very north side.
the Clark
And then
Planetarium.
there's an underground parking.
Cicero is the
I'll find it.
parking,
Yeah.
but finding the place is a little bit tricky. They've got signs when I went, which I wouldn't have found it if it weren't for the arrows, go here, go there, for the
Yeah.
Wasatch Front.
And I got there the first time by going to that Google map.
Yeah. Oh.
It took me right down to where it goes down.
Well, mine wouldn't do that.
And,
had to
and your
circle around
parking,
it.
they will give you tickets
I'll
to
validate it.
validate it at the WFRC office.
Okay.
Okay, Ty.
Just an update in our personnel policy manual. It says that I'd report on our goal setting and survey. So we did a employee satisfaction survey, completed that, and then reviewed it. Part of it has a peer review component to it, and we sat down with each employee and goal set for the next year. And as you know, when the about Thanksgiving timeframe, we review the goals and award annual bonuses based on safety and personal
Good.
performance goals. So we've done that. The 2023 audit is late. We missed our deadline, supposed to be uploaded to the website, and it's scheduled for March. So we have been in contact with them. The auditor's office had a bunch of sickness and got way behind, and just want to make a note that I don't believe there's any fault to any of our staff about providing information or requesting information. Denise has been super responsive, but a lot of the inquiries came super late, but our turnaround hasn't held up that process at all.
Any penalty associated with that?
No, the big risk is to the rating agencies. So we have 2 outstanding bond rating agencies that we give them our audited financials every year. And so the state doesn't fine us or anything like that. They gave us a letter that gave us a, is it 60 day notice? Yeah, so they gave us a, 2-month to say, hey, you're late, you need to get it uploaded in this time, and so we're on schedule to not be penalized that way. I would just say the big risk is to rating agencies that say, you're not consistent on your financials, might look poorly on issuing debt. Because they require that. So we have 2 that have asked for it, and I've told them, you just gotta be patient. So we'll send it as soon as we get it. One's for our sales tax revenue bond that we did for the bridge and we're using for the road projects, and the other one is associated with the backing of the bond that we did for the Utopia project that asked for those, so. Just, you probably seen on the county that Como Springs has been moving forward with their conditional use permit. So we have, a checklist of items. We asked for final drawings because there's a couple of revisions out there. And we want to make sure that we're just reviewing the very final documents for the last time. We have conditions on there for transferring water rights and, that sort of thing. And, so that's just back on our to-do list. Just wanted to make you aware that the city's still making sure it's up to city standards. Easement needs to be recorded. That sort of thing. So. yeah.
While we're on the subject, the site plan review was the topic of one of two discussions of the County Planning Commission last Thursday. And they moved forward, and I think we need to be aware of this in light of our letter that we sent them suggesting that sending traffic down 100 South, and remember that I live on 100 South, was a concern to the city. They moved forward with this site plan, and along the way there was some discussion about the remember back in October of 22, the commission said that we'll give you conditional use as long as you don't use 100 South as your primary ingress and egress. In fact, more than that, one of the commissioners put the word only used for emergency purposes. And that meant redoing the bridge. Well, evidently, and I don't know the details, and a couple of questions, Gary, and again, this is county, so, but you may just know the procedure. But a couple of months later, the applicant requested a hearing, and they only referenced a hearing officer. And I guess I would wonder what a hearing officer is or who it is, but they overturned a lot of what the county commission said you need to do. Hence, and I think there's still some questions. The county has an ordinance, an RV park, an RV group ordinance, and they're saying that doesn't apply, that this was grandfathered. They didn't give term or, details or dates or times, but nonetheless, one of the commissioners said there's 90 some units, I think, 90 units of just RV spots, another 30 of tents, and another 30, I think, of cabins, plus a restaurant. But the comment from staff was that they could put in whatever they wanted because their ordinance didn't apply. So they didn't talk too much about that. But I guess one question, Gary, for you would be, what would the hearing officer portion be? What I know we've talked about appeals that could go to through a hearing process here. I would suspect the county would have something similar. Is that a state arrangement, or would the county be off on their own doing whatever they're doing?
So a land use appeal authority is likely what you're talking about because it's an appeal from conditions of a conditional use.
Yes,
approval.
I think so.
So those are appealed to a hearing officer. It used to be a board of adjustment years ago, but now they hire a hearing officer, somebody who's familiar with land use, to take a look at the ordinances to make sure that they're met. Those appeals from the decision on a conditional use would go to a hearing officer. From the hearing officer, they're appealable to district court. And so that's kind of the process that state law has set out for hearing challenges to the conditions of a conditional use. But this sounds like they were taking the position that it was a non-conforming, or excuse me, approved, non-conforming use, grandfathered use. Is that what they're
evidently through something? And there was a remark that the county had then gone to the district court, but that didn't go anywhere, and so they're back to having these significant conditions that we were concerned about taken away. So I guess, as I think through, and again, I'm living there, in addition to increased traffic, whatever, I mean, we all have complaints of that, but nonetheless, development rights allow development. So, okay. We provide services to the property in the county. And what do they provide? What we give that to them, what do they give us? Traffic going down 100 South, which is going to be increased maintenance on our roads. I think there's two items: increased maintenance on roads and infrastructure, and number two, and they're not in the city to pay for any of that. And number two, the safety hazard with the school crossing. It's probably going to need to be enhanced. We'll probably have to do something different there, I would think, with 97 rigs, if you will, going back and forth. Do we still have a concern?
So if I could speak just a little bit with what I've
No?
gathered.
Okay.
It's not that the bridge doesn't qualify for the main.
They had 3 years to review something with the bridge, and it didn't, they weren't specific on what that review was.
And so the entrance on 100 South is sort of the entrance, but the comment that was made to me was that, well, we're still gonna use the bridge. 100 South isn't gonna be the main entrance.
They recognized that bigger outfits would have to use 100 South. They acknowledged that. Maybe turn around or whatever. I guess one other question, Gary, so it's gone to would it be similar to our arrangement with planning commission? It's gone to their planning commission. Is it, and they gave a recommendation, positive, favorable. Would it now need to go to the county commission for review?
No, the conditional uses generally don't go to the county
Okay.
commission or the legislative body for review. The planning commission is the final say on it.
Okay.
And then it goes to an appeal authority if they disagree with the conditions that are imposed. Kind of tough to turn down a conditional use under state law, because if you can quote unquote mitigate the existing circumstances, the circumstances, the impact, negative impacts, a conditional use has to be approved. But if they're alleging also, and it's a separate issue, that certain types of things that the planning commission was requiring were already grandfathered. In other words, they were already doing it. That's a separate issue. And they would need the burdens on the applicant to prove to the hearing officer that those uses were in existence for, time and eternity, essentially, for into the past. They haven't just created it. So all of those things that you're saying are correct, but it sounds like what happened was the hearing officer indicated that some of the conditions they had set kind of violated the non-conforming status of the Como Springs. However, you need to know, I mean, the one thing that the city always has is the opportunity to determine if it's extraterritorial, that they will or won't provide services. I don't know what our arrangement is, but I mean, that's totally separate from the conditional use, from everything. If the city refuses to provide water or sewer or whatever else,
Electricity.
that would be an issue, but I don't
Our
know.
commitment's already given, is that correct, Ty?
In 2019, we did a will serve
Remember that?
letter and had conditions. But the other thing is we're making sure that if they don't hit all of our approvals and all the conditions that we have on the infrastructure, then they don't have the answer to the questions that they need to solve. How are you going to provide water? How are you going to provide sewer? So
The answers to the conditional use.
yeah, right. So
Process.
so we just want to make sure that
We get our answers.
and the easement that we need and everything that we need needs to be answered before they get final. So before they get final acceptance, we just need to really make sure our list of
T's are crossed.
our list of standards are met. So
Why wouldn't we, and it's just a broad general question out there. We're providing all of these utilities for Como. Why wouldn't we want to annex that piece of property?
Ty's answered that before.
I'm just asking. There's pros, cons. I mean, but
That's
it's,
where the conversation started. So prior to 2019, they met with us, said we want to do a project, would like to annex into the city. And we told them, well, we'll have to, at the time, we'd have to amend the annexation declaration and you can apply, and told them the process, and they said, we don't have time for that. And we didn't have a zone to offer.
We didn't have the zone either.
So, and that was another thing, is that we'd say you'd have to request annexation, amend the declaration, request annexation, and then we'd have to create a zone that even allows, or, you know, if you annex and leave it just as it is, it just becomes a non-conforming use. But if you want to do this development, then we have to create the zone and hit the standards for it. And so,
that's all doable, right?
yeah, but it was never requested. So,
Does it have to be requested, or where we're providing services to them? Can we just not force the issue?
Well, I think what we can do is what we did, and that was in January of last year. We said we will not provide services for new construction unless it's annexed. This was prior to that. So we've plugged
so
the gap.
the
but-
question is do
still-
we, if we provide services, if we can force annexation?
I thought you could, but
Yeah, you could. I mean, it probably causes a big brouhaha, but the will serve letter is good to the point where I remember it was conditional on their doing the things. 100 South was part of that. I remember that they,
So 100 South is just to be used for the water line.
Yeah.
So they're gonna loop our water line. So,
yeah.
you know, at the time, the thought process was what we get out of it is a
There's some
loop.
benefit to us.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it provides stability to our water system. Water pressure gives us redundancy, but
So digging back in my memory, Como Springs is the one that shut down the entrance from 100 South. Way back. That's when we were kids. That's,
yeah,
you could go both ways.
There's always a
But they
loop,
shut
wasn't
it
it?
down
they had you quit using that entrance.
now they're claiming.
and now they're wanting it.
Now it's public. Yeah, now it's open.
So if you stop using something for a 1 year period of time, your non-conforming use disappears. So, you know, if you cease to use it, or you cease to perform the use, or if you shut the place down, tear it down, you know, there's all kinds of ways that you can terminate that non-conforming status.
I'm not sure where it comes in, but they were given an extension, I think, to complete the project perhaps of out to 3 years. There was a 3-year extension over what, and I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I'm wondering if that would have something to do with it.
I'd have to take a look at. what
Yeah, I
they
think
did. don't know.
they may have covered that base already.
But that, so if they put the no trespassing on that entrance, it's been well over a year, then what does that do to them?
So you can lose your non-conforming status by abandoning your the non-conformity, the thing that was grandfathered. For example, if I was to stop using, you know, a right of way that eventually became illegal as a result of a change in the city ordinance, I could lose that forever by not using it anymore. Or if I were to stop farming cattle on my property for a 1 year period of time and stop doing that, and the city ordinance changed to say you can't farm on that property anymore, then you stand the chance of losing that non-conforming status.
The road though is a private road, so they're free to close it or open it at will, it'd be my thought. It's not a right of way.
But it's never been used as a public thoroughfare, right? Are
It
they
has-
changing it to a public thoroughfare?
Yeah,
It's
there's,
still private, but.
it's always been
used
a,
it.
yes, it's always been a private road, but when the For example, when the Heiner family had the Como Resort, it was used publicly. Even though it was a private road.
But it wasn't a public road, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I think they're,
You have to take a look at it. It's Como's a peculiar thing that has been around ever since I've been here.
yeah,
You know, and people have come in and tried to develop it over the years and backed off. And this is a new development. You know, and the county's handling it a certain way. But the fact that you provide utilities is, I mean, you have a say in the matter. If you weren't providing utilities, there's not a lot you could do probably, you know, once it gets that far, but provision of utilities is outside of the conditional use, it's outside of
All the utilities.
everything. You know, pretty much. Has nothing to do with land use.
They could enter. What options do we have for the will serve letter? Can we add conditions to that?
Yeah, you could go back and you could say, you know what,
On that.
we have a problem. We're providing the utilities. Here are the conditions that the city requested. You've gone ahead and fought those conditions and had them reversed. We got an issue, and the issue is we don't need to provide you with service.
you're not feeling too good right now.
Yeah.
So,
That's why I just wondered how binding that was, and since it was 2019.
it's binding if they meet all the terms and conditions of what the city wanted them to do back then, but I can't remember.
It didn't have anything to do with access because it wasn't ever anticipated.
Just looping the line is what it
Right.
was.
Yeah, there wasn't consideration because there was no plan.
Wasn't a lot of detail at the time.
But I think with
Take
Steve's,
a look at it.
with the mayor's letter, we're on record that there's some concerns with safety and so forth.
Can't remember what the council did about 100 South and where that was actually requested. Was that your letter, Mayor, that was
Thought
written
you helped
regarding?
me draft a letter.
Yeah.
That's right.
With a letter.
All right, see this gray hair?
Yeah, to the county
It's not quite
commission.
yet, not quite what Tony
Yeah.
says yet.
Well, no, you're retired. Give you, you need a
I
break.
do remember.
Yeah,
I
you
do remember.
give him some credit.
We put our comments in a formal,
Yeah, I remember.
on their formal record. Because we submitted and
So at this point.
In
is
fact,
that-
excuse me, Steve, that letter was part of the planning commissions, even though they didn't pay any attention to it. It was part of their packet. It was interesting, none of the commissioners knew of this overturn or this hearing. And they were questioning that. But again, there was very little detail given about it, only that it had happened.
Really?
Yeah, no, in fact, Commissioner Sessions said at the very end, I have a final question. Should those meetings have been made public? Or should those meetings have had a public notice? The meetings with the hearing officer and the county attorney, Garrett Smith, said, I don't know. I'll have to find out for you. So
They're public meetings. You know, I don't, you just give your regular notice of a public meeting, I think.
it doesn't,
Take a look.
doesn't sound like they were noticed. In fact, I think he maybe mentioned that they weren't noticed, but he didn't know if there was a requirement to notice them.
The question I would have is who hired the hearing officer? That has to be the county.
Yes.
County has to hire him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody knew.
Yeah, they've gone through something and again, to take the next step to try to appeal the hearing officer to the district court that remark was made,
Somebody's,
says that they're still involved in the loop, but
is that still on appeal to the district court?
no, that was short-lived for whatever reason. It didn't go anywhere.
yeah, I think that's what happened was though, not to the district court, but the hearing had already taken place. Yeah.
Maybe it could be that the court looked at it and said,
Not the court, I'm saying the
that
first.
this doesn't have anything to do with us.
So maybe still more to come on the process.
Okay, well, sounds like we have some fun to do.
Yeah.
It's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
What's a brouhaha?
Oh.
I'm just trying to decide, do we want to,
Australian,
maybe we want a
Canadian, or-
brouhaha.
I don't know.
We want one.
Brouhaha.
Yeah, I like Brujas.
I think that's an Australian expression, so.
Sounds like it.
So next update's just a website transition, so, or is it Civic Plus bought out Municode, which hosted our website prior, and so we went through a transition to the new company. We've been working on that for a little bit, but, if you hear that something's wrong with our website, that's why. There were some, someone called about a job posting that we didn't know we had, because it's
He's ready to start.
showed back up but most of that's getting worked through there. It looks just like mostly just like our previous website. The way we update it and stuff like that's just being gone through right now. But if you happen to hear or notice something that doesn't sound right on our website, it could be a valid concern. We'll just have to look into it. Then city facilities tour, so April 10th, would like to invite the council to come and visit our city staff. So Dave said he was kind of interested in seeing some of the facilities that we talk about. So kind of our plan is to start here in the morning on April 10th, get a little snapshot from the office staff on what their department does or what their job function is. But you get to interact a little bit with individual employees. And then we'll go on a little tour, see our wells, spring facilities, our sewer plant.
Electrical.
What's that?
Electrical.
Yeah, good. So see some of the equipment that we have, our shops. And then, kind of have lunch in the park as part of the, you're pretty familiar with the parks and cemeteries, but maybe not see the mowers and that sort of thing. So our staff's putting together that tour, and we just wanted to put that on your radar on April 10th.
The time yet or not?
Not an exact time, but probably 8 in the morning,
Okay.
8 to noon, 8 to 2, something like that. Cause it'll include lunch. That was kind of the idea, is just have lunch in the park. It'll be kind of nice to enjoy our own facilities and meet and interact with some of our staff and all the stuff that we
That'd be
talk
wonderful.
about. So
Yeah, that-
it's kind of Dave's idea. We just decided, let's do it right instead
I
of
mean, I've
individually.
been on to a second term and I don't know that I would say I don't know. I haven't visited the facilities.
And probably be kind of a little ride along with me, and then each department would visit each department and have
What
them.
about
give a little-
opening that up to the planning commission?
Yeah, we can. We'll just plan the tour and see how it goes. Shouldn't matter how many, right? So,
Do we invite the city attorney?
sure. Yeah, we can invite whoever may be interested. It's,
City planner? Like the mayor?
I've been to most of them, but I'd love to go with all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we good, Ty?
Yep.
I need a motion for us to go into a closed session.
Mayor, I'd move that we go into a closed session, a strategy session to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of a water right or water shares. And it reference the Utah Code 52-4-205 1D.
Second, Mayor.
Have a motion from Dave to go into a closed session and a second from Jeffrey. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we'll need to give Denise a few minutes to
I'm supposed to remind you to give Denise some food.